It's God really calling, as they say. It is a calling, and I may find myself, on the pulpit one day. I said I would start off with responding to the last question. I think, but before, maybe I understand there are colleagues from the Department of Social Development, and I hope they have walked inside and are sitting with us here. There are social workers that were sent by the Provincial Department of Social Development to at least give some of you, some counseling in case you need it. In fact, I've picked up many of you do need, some one-on-one counseling, with professionals. And yeah, I mean, this is how we do things in situations like this, where we know that, emotions would really rise up. There should be someone to be able to attend to yourself. Have the colleagues walked inside? Are they with us here, or that the social workers? Or are they still outside? Because surely this is not acceptable. I don't think they should come here, stand outside and walk away. Are they here? They are not. Yes. Yes, yeah. The first day, Lorato was here, and then Lorato decided to go mobilize colleagues from, I think, the local office, so that whenever there's need for counseling, at least people can, just a few minutes. But if they walked away, this is unacceptable, and I think it's something we will have to address with the Northwest Department of Social Development. Anyway, okay, I am a social worker, qualified. Ne? Yeah, so please don't be afraid. Yeah, I'm a man, but I'm sure I can give some counseling. Yeah, I would respond first to the last question. The rights of perpetrators, vis-a-vis the rights of victims. Let's say as the Department of Social Development, it's like I do give the history of, I call it the evolution of victim empowerment in South Africa. But what happened is, South Africa, post-apartheid South Africa came up with what is called the Victims Charter, which means Victims Charter to promote the rights of victims of crime. Why? Because before, as we know most that perpetrators of crime do have rights. Ne? They do have rights, but the feeling was the rights of perpetrators seem to be upheld, and victims, are just left out. I always give an example of my grandmother. My grandmother, I'm sure most of you, I think almost all your, grandparents mainly, they don't like these places called police stations, ne? Or courts of law, ne? Or even if someone gets arrested, to visit that person, it's as if once you walk into such a place, they feel the stigma, you would walk out with bad luck, you'll end up coming to stay, you'll be locked up one day. So she feared those kinds of places, ne? And so you can imagine, if you fear a court of law, or if you fear a police station, and then you are violated, that is, creates a crime against you. Hence, I mean, for you to really go to such a place, we are to ne? And you decide, sometimes we've heard of stories, people gating about saying in a police station. So what happened with my grandmother is my youngest uncle, the last born of my uncles, was like some kind of a criminal in Soshanguve. And so he would commit crimes, but when he goes to court, well, somehow he was still very young, and my grandmother would then have to go and listen. She used to complain. You can imagine how small I was. And she would say, "Watsiba, ge nkebe se ka moshimane o marumo pleke ba reng court nkebe ke sa e tsebe. You understand? She said, it's because of this boy that I found myself going to such places. So then, if you are afraid of such a place, ne, and it happens that you are being violated, and you are expected to go and give evidence in a place that you hate, imagine how you would feel. Ne? Imagine how you feel. You'd find that, there are these habitual criminals. So these habitual criminals are known by the SAPS, the police, kokokoti, bale bakokoti, babitsang kan, bale babitsang, bale habaunyaka. Hey, mamang, what do you call? The court orderly or something. Yes, those court orderlies, they know him. Some of the prosecutors, they know him. So it's like as he's walking around, you find sometimes the high five. Yeah. So then you can imagine if you are a victim of such a person, how you'd feel. Or, hey, this person is so comfortable here, and then I'm here to give evidence against this person. I wonder you are already defeated. Yeah, because then hey, this person is, he's at a familiar place for her. And I mean, that works against you. So hence, the rights of victims of crime then were brought up. Hence, we have what we call the Victim Empowerment Program. Victim Empowerment Program. 1998, we came up with a policy, victim empowerment, following the Victims Charter, which contains the rights of victims. And one of the rights of victims that I always mention here, the right to information. You have the right to be informed, the right to be treated with dignity, as a victim. So there are rights of victims of crime. At least now that you are, your digital skills have improved. I'm sure you little go internet. And then not only TikTok, but everything else. Just, it means you have to Google NSP, National Strategic Plan, NSP on gender-based violence and crime. All those acts that were mentioned by Ms. Lindas, please empower yourself. Make sure that now when you go into internet, you search for that information. Because it's not only for yourself now. Yes, it will help you, but at the same time, you've left so many other ladies back at home that needs that kind of knowledge and information. And I think you would also contribute to, bringing down, the stats of crime, Yeah, and as I mentioned also, Renali, victim-friendly rooms in police stations. No, I saw a presentation as bro. Yeah, I'm just sharing other things before the presentation. First, let me thank the Department of Communications and Digital Technology for inviting us, for partnering with us. Now we can see, Khore, that strategy is working. The mere fact that you see two departments that I'm sure you are hearing for the first time, the Department of Social Development, side by side with the Department of Digital Information, Communications and Digital Technology, talking, sharing a platform. This is unusual, Ankir. So this is an indication our strategy is working. Strategy Sarnas is working, and we can see this is evidence. And yes, it is up to us to work harder, even yourselves, to work harder to ensure it becomes alive, because we feel the strategy will certainly bring about a change, Mona, in our country. Men were mentioned, and I'm going to also mention a group of men. When I walked in here, I said, I'm not here for the first time. I was in this hall last year, November, when a group called Banna Bakai were celebrating 10 years of existence. I stood on this podium here, delivering a speech to a group, Barinki Banna Bakai. Who knows Banna Bakai here? Yeah? Oh, sorry, Banna. No, not Banna Bua. in Potchefstroom is Banna Bakai. Banna Buang used to exist in Sebokeng. So you know Banna Buang? Baku Sebokeng. Bafentersdorp. Okay, I know Banna Bakai here. Those men who ask the question, when things are like this, when all these things happening, Banna Bakai. So someone raised their hand, you know about the Banna Bakai group, ne? And I'm sure they are doing a very, very, so hence, yes, when it comes to men's program, the focus is not only on men that are being abused. It's not only on, because as Ms. Linda mentioned, it's quite a fraction of men that are being, very, very small percentage. It does not require, intervention and strategies and everything else. But the thing is, there are men who stood up and say, we want to do something. We want to contribute to bringing down, the levels of crime and gender-based violence in our communities. So please, try to partner with them. Don't say, nah, I'm a woman, so I'll stay away from them. No, try to work with them because they are here for yourselves. Ne? Okay, I think now I'll start off with my presentation. The presentation is just meant to if it was possible, there's a lot to say, but it assists. Yeah. As you can see, I start off with the cycle of abuse. I heard, I think, no, I see, is it Katle? No, I see Katlego. The Katlego who is still a victim, not yet a survivor. Okay. And then Katlego loves this boyfriend because he's handsome. I'm not sure if it's more handsome than I am. But anyway, what happens here, it is the cycle of abuse, as you can see. Let's start off where go build up. Ne? It builds up. There's passion, you are enjoying, and even though there's some pain, but it's like you enjoy, but it starts building up, there's anger and all those things. Ne? Then from there, you try to stand up, and it sounds like Katlego is the type that would really stand up, against him. And then King, kima paramburuku mo, karo atella wena, wait. Yeah, right. From there, when you stand up, then explodes. In physically. And all those things, physical. That's the explosion part you can see. It's like he stabbed you 10 times. I'm sure then he tried to plead. I'm sure he did visit Azang. Okay, that's a different story here. In most cases, he will plead, and then pleading more because of remorse. Yes, yeah, I get your king. Yeah, even Tweka, Ekatswamona, the Lotsi Cascolegi, Markai, Galitepisa, never, and Cascolegi, real it's remorse. And yeah, from there, as you can see, remorse then pursuit. Wawana Leka Manguelo Akunam, Waikupela, man. Eh, Waiti, Hanka Twela, Kiwana, Keto Sala Kiliman. Waibon. Katleo, I'm sure it sounds familiar, ne? Okay, Keto Sala Kilimang. Yeah, so then I highly would know Potlai deep enough. Potlai deep enough, then comes honeymoon. Yo, Otomakal, and that's what keeps you. Ne? That's what keeps you. This is how you see the handsomeness in him. But for the mere fact, whatever he gives, really high. One more na shoot. Let me blow one. Then it's a cycle. It continues like that. The unfortunate thing is there are those who survive and to tell the story, but there are those who don't. One day something happens, and after that, innatu, angir, innatu, ofedile ba gaetso. Re tlo ba le di after tears, re tlo lebala. Re tswelle pele ka bophelo. And why? Because we've normalized this life. This is how life is supposed to be in our communities. This is not acceptable. Ne? I decided to let me start off with this cycle. You understand? I'm sure all of you can. You relate to what you are seeing here. Okay. The next slide, Munir. I think the next slide, I'm trying to, not that I'm accurate, ne, but I'm trying to, I ask myself questions. There's always, whenever, I mean, we ask ourselves, you know, yesterday, yeah, it was yesterday. I used to work in a place called Kucho, ne? Not far from here, called Carltonville. We started what we call the Carltonville Home and Community-Based Care. Those who know, I'm the founder. But then, I was, yesterday, ne, I said, let me just check what's happening back in Carltonville. And I came across a very scary article. A couple of weeks back, there's a man, Welfare Dint, who raped an 8-day-old baby and she died. And these are the questions we ask for how Batum. Good is like everyone is saying this thing, Tom. Good like everyone seemingly wants to break a record. Good, I didn't dwelling why? And Harishir the answer. We ask ourselves, how can Mutwaitse so? So I thought maybe this would maybe give some, picture as to what is happening. A person oiling khori or violent and abusive, ne? A person oiling khori is a victim and fearful. There's one thing that I picked up is what is happening in their minds, how their body react is more or less the same thing. Because it's similar. And similar why? Somehow we always say people, abusers were victims themselves. You know, there's something called adverse childhood experiences. Many of us have experienced very, very difficult childhoods. Ne? Ms. Lindes was abused emotionally by her own grandfather, and her mother and grandmother, what they did is called buffering. So it's like they did the opposite. They told her the opposite of what the grandfather was telling her. And she trusted both of them. And instead, she stuck to what the mother and grandmother were telling her about herself. And that sustained her. Ne? So all of us, many of us anyway, have had those kinds of experiences. It's sometimes emotional, it's sometimes physical, where you are beaten as a child. Ne? Beaten, the reaction is the same. It's called hypothalamus pituitary adrenal process, the HPA. That is the stress response. Hey, stress, man. Ne? Yeah, so ha motho a re ke na le stress mare e le hore o bolela eng and yano kare kula bona le ngwana 2 years or 5 years wa itse ke tshwere ke stress ne. Yeah, but the truth is stress is on a thing, and then I always hear hore stress is normal ne. Stress is normal. Everyone is supposed to experience stress. But you see, the body, ne, there's stress and there's trauma. The body reacts the same way to both stress and trauma. It's just that because stress is normal, you can be able to deal with it. That is why there's something called stress management. You have to manage your stress. But trauma, it's unfortunately beyond your control. There's no way you can manage it. But the brain and the body will react the same way. What happens is, this thing is referred to as the autonomous nervous system. It's an automatic nervous system. It just happens without you thinking, no, so. I'm not sure if you understand. It's automatic. So you are okay. Yeah, it's like, did you sit and think it just happened? Ne? That is automatic. So very a loud bang. I mean, it happened go Joburg, Bree Street. So if you can ask those people how they felt, and they never thought, good like I know bang, or kids. No, what you do is hata wika tena you see. Yeah, so then stress, trauma, the body reacts the same way. What happens is when the brain is sensor danger, as when I jumped, her brain somehow sensed danger. Hence, I really how the limbic or emotional brain has got what is called amygdala. The brain is divided, like the brain has got 3 layers. At the top, you have what we call the cortex, which is also referred to as the human brain. Maybe ke supe ka ntwe ya lo ke le na le di screen tse 2 ba gaetso yeah confuse mara I'm sure bo botle re tla bona ke le ke hore ke point ke na le ntwe ke reng ba re ke pointer this part ne ekondimo is referred to as the cortex, and it's also referred to as the human brain. It's only human beings by Lengkuri. This is functional. Yeah, it's only in us. This is where our intelligence is. We are able to reason and all those things. But in the middle, we have what we call the emotional brain or the limbic brain. They also call it the mammalian brain. It's functional. Even mammals, all the mammals do have the mammalian brain. You know, look home. Stressed. Yeah, more intelligent. You know, it's like if one of them is not well. Yeah, so all the mammals, but you know, they do care for their offsprings. So that's the mammalian brain. This is where this thing called the amygdala is situated, in the mammalian brain or the limbic brain. And then kamotasi, you have what is called the brainstem. The brainstem is also referred to as the reptilian or the lizard brain. Hakir watsuha is because of your lizard brain. It acts on instincts. It's like Mukhaditswan, how kopana lona, how singinako wheat. So Ronabatu, renali reptilian brain, rebelli mammalian brain, rebelli human brain. So because we are the most intelligent creatures, such a Jehovah. So then, in this amygdala, the amygdala is like a barkit kuriki ya sensor. Idulai sensor hori. How so it's working, even though when you are not even conscious. It's working, it's sensing, am I in a safe place? So that if the place is not safe, escape. So then, when it fires an alarm, the hypothalamus will send a message from the nervous system to the endocrine system through the pituitary gland. So from there, the hypothalamus, if the amygdala fires an alarm, and it's an alarm, it's sensing. Danger, danger, danger. Then the message goes down your spinal cord to what are referred to as the pituitary glands that are sitting on top of your kidneys. Those pituitary glands, when they receive this message, the nervous system to the endocrine system through the pituitary glands. So then, when this reaches the in fact, through the pituitary gland transfers the message. But on top of your kidneys sits what are referred to as the adrenal glands. The adrenal glands, what they do, then they respond. They release what is called cortisol. Cortisol happens to be, cortisol is a stress hormone. They release cortisol, and what cortisol does, it numbs your body from feeling pain. Because it's like throughout the body. Suddenly your body won't feel pain. Because body, how it doesn't feel pain, then what would happen is another gland would also be secreted, which is referred to as adrenaline. I'm sure all of you have heard of an adrenaline. Yeah, so then the glands, that is your adrenal glands, release cortisol to numb your body from feeling pain, and adrenaline to fuel your muscles. They fuel, if your muscles will be fueled, so that if the danger means you have to run away, then your adrenaline will fuel your leg muscles. Okamata libilo loso kangole mata in your life. You will never ever only mate happen. Or uka jumpa fence elinguri no man. Kur how fitaka kwalo no puts or man. Kinna oki jumpile anger. So that's what happens. Why? Because your muscles are fueled by adrenaline, and your body is numbed. I feel pain. That is why you are able to run. A human being is able to run 90 kilometers. 90 kilometers. It's because adrenaline is pumping, and then so then, you are asking yourself for these are released by the endocrine system's adrenaline, which sits on top of your kidneys. When cortisol numbs the body from feeling pain, adrenaline fuels the muscles to enable either what is called a fight or flee. That is, you run as fast as you can. You can also freeze, is the fight, flight, or freeze response, which means you will either fight if you are strong. If you are, iskaba. Ya bona le ikwetse so matsatsi a setse ra tshaba nkere hona le ke gas okay iska re bola mare ya montlung ai tshwane le le ya ko e bolaileng batho. Yeah, so yeah. No, I dangerous ke re khona we emela. So then, fight, flight, or freeze response. So you are asking yourself, for why am I sharing this? It's because the perpetrator himself experiences the same process, HPA. Yourself, as the victim, you experience the same process, HPA. So what I'm trying to say here is, if the perpetrator gains the awareness, I start to understand that this is what is happening to him. The easiest thing to do is, when the emotions go up, if a person a trainer to do that, surely that person will never ever be violent. But Luena, as the victim, Ha tswela ko ntle, a re o shapa ke moya. You are not supposed to say, yeah, ke ntho a itlwaetseng vele. Wa tswa wa tshaba byanong. Yeah, ke a mo itse, ke a mo. No. Yeah, Oscar, yeah. Ke tlo ba bolella ebile ke a mo itse ke le kwala. Mone. No, that won't help because then you are inviting. Does that make sense, colleagues? You are my colleagues anyway. So, yeah, that means we talk emotional regulation. You can regulate your emotions. Ne? A person can regulate. Asihuri, I don't get angry. Ke ba stressed. Hence we say stress is normal. Ha ke ya ko mmerekong ke na le di assignment ba re ke tshwantse ke submit a report nini. Yan stress ntho ankere. I'm going to experience all this. The only difference between stress and trauma is because stress, as it's normal, it reaches an end. So there's that cycle. This cycle takes place, but ha ke feditse assignment ke le relieved, then the emotions will go back to normal. The body, it will recover until I feel. I mean, let's say school, how go kwalwa exam, but yeah, o ngwala matric e thata ya o tshosa nkere. Wa ithuta wa pass. How pass it you ex? In fact, these are stress hormones, ne? But there are other hormones, the opposite. We call them feel-good hormones. And then the reason why there is that cycle is because of the feel-good hormones. Feel-good hormones, the thing, how do you relate it to stress? It's like when you feel good. I mean, it's like if a person praises you, you feel good about yourself. So there's a chemical reaction that happens even in your body. You know, it's like you have what they call serotonin. Yeah, and then I always say why people are addicted to church is because ha ba fitla go kerekeng, pastor a ka se re modimo wena o tloile. Hona le pastor kileng a ra le ba reng wena modimo a o rate. Ro rotle ga re le kwa ne he would tell us gore le ha ba ka o jikela ba o fetohela ba o etsa eng kapa eng empa ha ile Jehova mmupi wa hao wa o rata wa o tlisisa wa o rata a ka se ka o furalla angere. So then what happens to you that triggers serotonin? That is why bazalwana ha re tswa kerekeng o ka kena kerekeng o kwatile ne mara re tswa ka smile. Hey, we hug each other, homonate. Yeah, we look forward, you know, to a better life. Does that make sense? So there are feel-good hormones, and that's what we are supposed to trigger. You know, as I said, the guys who run 90 kilometers, the marathon, they do experience stress. But what happens is, in that process, as they are running, the body starts secreting what are referred to as endorphins. Those endorphins are feel-good hormones. They start enjoying the running. Ne? There are those kind. There's one called oxytocin, of which I'm sure Kiona is so because oxytocin has to be with yeah, oxytocin has to be with hugging and all those things. Yeah, and you really feel good how so colleagues, does this really make sense? So then try, what I'm asking you is try to regulate your emotions. And hence, even when we talk to men, this is what we emphasize, emotional regulations. Remember, we said Renari pillar 4, which is care, support, and healing. And I always say when it comes to healing, now I talk about emotional healing. So imagine when you hear good things about yourself many a times, ne? What would happen? That would change the way you even see yourself. So this is what we want our shelters to always do. When women walk into those shelters, they should really feel this is a totally different environment. This is an environment that cares. And when you walk out of the shelter, you should walk out with confidence. Yahori, I can survive. I can make it. Does that make sense? Okay. The next slide in that. So I'm sure this is clear. So then, here we are. The Department of Communications, they mentioned 3 pillars, which they are implementing from the National Strategic Plan. Pillar 2, which is prevention, pillar 3, which is legislation, and pillar 5, which is economic empowerment. So you can see, this is National Strategic Plan, period 2020 to 2030. I always ask this question. The National Strategic Plan is also informed by what we call the NDP, National Development Plan 2030. And the NDP, I think there's a goal that speaks to South Africa being free from violence and So which means by 2030, remote 2023, by 2030, we are saying South Africa, it wants to be free. In 2030, yes, sister, in 2030, you should not be afraid of walking the streets at any time. This is what we are saying. I heard you are afraid of walking the streets because Mutakola Onna Kamo side. In 2030, we are saying children should go and play in the park. And as parents, we should not be worried. Now I always ask the question, is this possible? Is it possible? Yes. Yeah, I mean, it means 7 years from now, from 2023, we are only left with 7 years to change this South Africa into the South Africa we want. Is this possible? Why? Can you please tell me how? Someone said yes. Why? Tell us, man.
Okay, now I'll say it from a woman point of view. I will say women are powerful and women are very influential. So anything that a woman doesn't want to do, it won't happen. But so it's possible.
It's the first time I hear such an answer, and it makes sense. Thank you. I mean, it's like, as you are saying, both powerful and fragile. My late mother. Why? Because she would wake up, Sansere Robeti 5 o'clock, I could training. I lo berek, atloa hulili fifi, abua hulili fifi. And a keep our male survivors. So it's possible. It's possible. But now I always say it is up to us. And yes, I'm talking to women here. And then women would say, why change? But it's up to us. The other thing is, why is it up to us men and why is it up to you as women? I mean, you have sons. You have sons. If your husband is abusive, then the son should not also become abusive. Well, she happens to be a woman. There was buffering done by her grandmother and her mother. Buffering from the abuse. So it's like, make sure, Hori, you buffer. I think it was Katleho, if I'm not mistaken, the first one to talk. What? Was it not Katleho? Palisa, yes, Katleho, Palisa, yes, Palisa. Palisa, you mentioned, Hori, as parents, we should be friends to our children. Ne? And we should listen to them. We should not say, hi, ungwana witsi. Ne? So this is what we can do. And it doesn't mean when you are abused, then you should abuse your own children. You were abused by your mother from what you said because she just didn't want to listen to you. She didn't physically abuse you, but it was really emotional. So this is what we're supposed to do. Our sons, our daughters. I mean, Lynn, I'm sometimes fearful. You know, it's like yesterday when I walked in, I told you about my son. I told you about my son, remember? Yes. So this boy walks, as I walked in, hey, Papa man, hey. As I was registering go institution ela online, and then I found out, oh no, there's a maths test that I'm supposed to write. She said it's a baseline test, yeah, maths. So then I had to write it. Oh, sure. Oh, 80%. Are you serious, Mfwethu? Yeah. I mean, it's like I just wrote. Pella, you didn't prepare. You didn't even know that you have this test to write. Yeah, but I scored 80%. You can imagine the confidence. No, he struggled with mathematics. He struggled. We fought battles. So, but then he was telling me with confidence, no, I scored 80%. Then that is the entry test into the university. I'm for it. Watch this. Somewhere, somehow, I was also jealous. I don't remember 80%, 80% mathematics. But you can imagine how it makes me feel proud. The investment, the fights that I've had with this guy. He's now good. Like he was so fearful of mathematics. What I'm trying to say is befriend your son, befriend your daughter, give as much as you can. And you are not sure who you are doing the right things. But when you get this kind of feedback, then you start realizing, this is not really in vain. Ne? Yes. Yeah. So into NSP now. Next slide. Yeah, this is how it looks. Ne? All those pillars, ne, you would find. Rona, we are doing pillar 4, which is response, care, support, and healing. Ne? Response, care, support, and healing. We provide victim-centered, survivor-focused, accessible quality services. I mentioned the victim-friendly rooms in police stations. Ne? They are also meant for this. Ne? Survivor-focused, accessible quality services. Someone complained about, rural areas where we don't have places to run to. Ne? Was it yourself? Rural, okay. Oh, there's, yeah. Rural areas where you don't have places to run to. Ne? We've come up with what we call the white and green doors, places of hope. And I think you should question the Northwest Department of Social Development. You have the right, Hori, in my village, Komangkweng, why don't we have a white door center of hope? Because with white doors, we would like, Hori, those places, they be easily accessible. So we ukatsabela kokai, because the police station is far away. Maybe the nearest shelter is hundreds of kilometers away. So we are saying, bring those places closer to people. In the Northwest, I know the most successful group, Yako Macau, they have a white door in Macau. I do meet with this guy on a regular basis. And it doesn't stop you from setting up a white door. Anyone, we call them white doors because it's white door center of hope. I remember I visited one in the Eastern Cape, a place called, it was Alfred Nzo. Alfred Nzo, because I remember it was in a yard, the royal place. Ne? So they put up one, Baca. As I'm sure people have heard of a place called Baca. It's spelled B-A-C-A. You know, there's a white door there. There are people who are sitting. It's a village, just like your village is here in the Northwest. There is a white door. And if women feel threatened, mobile thing, they can run to the place. The place will take care of you. It's secure. Angel. Does that make sense? In addition to the victim-friendly rooms in police stations, we do have white doors. And in addition to white doors, we have shelters for victims of gender-based violence. It's because setting up a shelter is quite costly. So hence it takes long to set up a shelter. But what I've realized, ke gore, a white door ne, can grow. I saw one in the Free State. It can be set up as a white door, but with time, you'd find how it grows and it becomes a shelter. And we sort of recorded it now as a shelter. In the Northwest, yes, we have the Dr. RSM. That is RSM Kuseleka One-Stop Center in Freiburg. I'm not sure if any one of you has been to Dr. RSM. He is far away from yourselves. You know Dr. RSM? Why is it Kusele? Yes, yeah. For women. Okay, yes, yeah. That's another the one-stop center that we have. So all these things are talking to response, because we respond to gender-based violence, we provide care and support, and we also try to heal people's emotions. Hence, I say, when you walk out of such a place, you should feel, no, I can conquer the world. Ne? Yes, next slide, Minir. Yeah, so it's because I'm a man, and so I can't, when it comes to, it seems as if I'm defending men, but I'm really not defending men. I know men have a role to play in fighting gender-based violence. Hence, I came here and I stood on this podium when Banna Bakai celebrated their 10th anniversary. So, but I always, refer to this one because this is the most structured and it's a national program. They call it Takuwane Riime, which means it's a Venda expression that says, let us stand up together. Takuwane Riime. That is, men stand together to fight gender-based violence. I'm not sure if they finished, they were busy working on the men's charter, and they are men championing change. Men championing change. So they want to really see change in our communities. And the change has to do with the way we treat women, the way we raise our children. They want to help us to a violent-free South Africa by 2030. And the number of men that are joining these groups is increasing. These groups are swelling. There are men who were abusive. They have changed because of these kinds of groupings. I remember Alexander, there was this father who was very abusive. He was from the rural areas. And he changed and he stood in front of people and explained to us how abusive he was, but how loving he has become. Okay, the next slide, please. In addition to men and boys program, we have, we came up with this program here, which is we refer to as the Everyday Heroes brand. I'm not sure if any one of you was trained as an everyday hero champion in the Northwest, because I remember my colleague has been many times to the Northwest. Aliti Nexika Everyday Heroes. It's another program, you need to know about it. It's a brand to educate and raise awareness on the impact of violence to all vulnerable groups. I think one speaks to domestic violence, another one to human trafficking, If I'm look at this one, it's 6 booklets. Ne? This one says abuse of persons, I think with disability, abuse of older people. This is speaks to sexual assault. This speaks to child sexual abuse. These are comics. And we even, at some stage, I remember we had the audio comics. People read this and, it's like to understand. Because what I'm trying to say is, in your community, you can be an everyday hero. Last year, it's like in I think 16 days of activism, we had an event where we invited everyday heroes, from all over the country. And I will share, we have a number, 0800 428 428. I think I'm going to talk about it. Like sometimes, because services are far away, Ankir, but when you need the service of a social worker, a counseling session, you can do it over the phone. You can pick up a phone and call 0800 428 428. The person who's going to answer on the other side is a social worker. Akaufa counseling over the phone. As long as you are within the borders of South Africa, you pick up the phone, you dial 0800 428 428. You can get into it now. 0800 428 428. I mean, it's toll free. You can get counseling. So this man, he used to refer people to this number. So in fact, sometimes he would call and then abafe phone number, this person abatla bua le yena. So then he didn't know who he's being recorded. This guy is from Port Shepstone. No, this person who referred him. So we said, but this man is an everyday hero because then he's referring. So then when I called him and said, hey, we've sort of booked a flight ticket and accommodation for you in Johannesburg. You are an everyday hero. So you are coming, you must come to collect your award. He said, Mari, what I did, I just called on behalf of people. Then we said, you've changed people's lives. You've saved people's lives. Hence, we regard you as an everyday hero. Like this is. So you can be an everyday hero as long as, you are help other people. So we are pushing this brand, Rebataibe Strong, the Everyday Heroes brand. Next slide, Mina. The other thing is the 25th of each month. 21. 21. Yes, no, I said today is the 21st. Yeah, so I'm just thinking now about the 25th, which is next week. The 25th of each month, the United Nations came up with the Say No, Unite to End Violence Against Women. So what we do is we wear orange to take a stand on ending violence against women and girls. You can partner Musliban Nabakai around here. 25th of, I know they like doing the marches, creating awareness. You wear orange on the day. Kiabona setse una leona ling orange at least. We're now only ready for the 25. But you use the day happy to yeah, it's because some of us, we struggle when it's the 25th because you open your wardrobe, it's hard to get something that's orange. So yeah, so but then the day UN is like for us to ensure, we don't stop up. Remember, we are talking 365 days of no violence against women and children. Wear something orange on the 25th. Join and like campaign Facebook. I hear someone is on to TikTok. We do have Facebook, Say No, Unite. Facebook, sign the global call for action. Spread and or promote the campaign amongst friends, family, and work colleagues. So maybe use that day to really talk about gender-based violence with your husband, with your friends, society. Yeah, go society, libulele ka yona nthwena. And yeah, wherever you are, it's like if to create that consciousness, yeah, or no, indeed, we have to do something about you. Next slide, Minir. These are some of the programs. We are also combating human trafficking. That is, we implement the Act, which is Prevention and Combating of Trafficking in Persons, Act of 2013. And we also have what we call the National Policy Framework on Trafficking in Persons. I'm sure you've all heard about human trafficking and media codes, Yanker. Yeah, so you've heard about the trafficking in humans. One thing I can say, trafficking is real. Yeah, it's a hard. And I'm happy that you're exposed to digital technology. Why? Because many of the cases of trafficking, they would tell you who it was through Facebook. Here's an example I can give. My daughter is now 22. She's in university. When I say 22, I remember I was in the Eastern Cape. When I said my daughter she was 21 last year. So, hey, umenze nini lo mntana? I'm not sure if you understand. Umenze nini lo mntana? Hey. So people don't understand. Maybe I look young, but I'm quite old. So, yeah, so then, but anyway, when she was 14, grade 8 in high school, I feel like grade 8 at primary school, befriended a white girl in class. So this white girl, they attended something. I think there's this person, he was still young then. This white boy man who sings from overseas. So Justin Bieber, yes, yeah. Justin Bieber came to, hey man, thank you. Hey, I'm Young. If I didn't, hey, yeah. So he came to the FNB, but I mean the cost of a ticket was 2,000 rands, and my daughter, but surely, I don't think this recover Leona in a budget to go and watch this man for 2,000 rand. But there was this white girl in the class whose parents bought many tickets. And then I don't know, I do have a ticket for you. She said, yo, my colleague, my classmate has a ticket. I remember we took her to FNB. They attended Bieber's show. But there was a support performer who I've never even heard his music, Bariki Johnny Apple. I'm sure some of you know Johnny Apple. I'm sure that's the name. You are 19, you should know. How much be Johnny Apple? Okay, Uraur is popular go the suburbs. So this Johnny Apple guy also performed as a supporting act. And then after that, this white girl started, posting on Facebook how she loves Johnny Apple. How? She loves Johnny Apple. My daughter and I was still dumb then, not knowing much about this Facebook stuff. So then, break time every day, it's, hey, I posted Johnny Apple, and then someone posted back from Cape Town. He said he's a cousin of Johnny Apple and he can hook me up with Johnny Apple. You can imagine the excitement of a 14-year-old. Yo, hey, finally, a cousin of Johnny Apple. I'm getting closer. So then they continued communicating Johnny Apple. Then one day, this Cape Town man said, no, in fact, I'm coming to Gauteng. So you can meet me at the OR Tambo airport. Unaware that in fact, he was aware that he's communicating with a 14-year-old, but the 14-year-old is now taken. So let's meet at OR Tambo. Then she comes to my daughter and say, hey, you know what? Because my parents know and trust you, if I tell them that I'm going with you to OR Tambo, they will let me go. But if I go on my own, they won't. Then Barry, my daughter, comes to her dad and say, hey, Papa, My friend says her parents will not let her go there on her own. So it's only if I accompany her. So what are you saying when yo? If this man is able to fly from Cape Town to OR Tambo, I mean, now we are in the West End. So just an Uber from OR Tambo will take her to the West End, take him to the West End. So why should you go and meet him at the OR Tambo airport? You yourselves, 14-year-olds. Now my daughter doesn't know what to do and has to go and report back to the friend, my parents don't want to allow me to go. The unfortunate thing is that was the end of the relationship between my daughter and her white friend whose parents spent 2,000 rands. She said, Wena, you are a papa's baby. Hey. Yeah, so it's like in the whole school, my daughter was known to be a papa's baby who doesn't make her own decisions, always consult with her parents. Ne? But I don't know what was going to happen at OR Tambo. I'm still asking myself, what would happen if 14-year-olds went to meet this man at OR Tambo? I'm not sure if I'm making sense. I am. Ne? So then what I'm trying to say is be careful. As I think digital training is meant, be careful when you communicate on Facebook. That is social media. And don't just be careful for yourselves. You have sons, you have daughters. You have to share this information with them. They should understand. You should know who your child communicates with on social media. Ne? You should, as you said, be friends to your child. So this is another way of fighting trafficking in persons. If I'm to tell stories of girls who were trafficked, 14, 15-year-olds, I'm sure you are going to cry. So we don't have the time for that. But I know of stories of young girls who were trafficked and they were exploited in the sex industry. Trafficking, they trafficked for sexual exploitation in the sex industry. Some people are trafficked for labor exploitation. Trafficking is called modern day slavery. They turn you into a slave. You make money for them. Drugs are used. Young girls are fed drugs. When they become hooked on drugs, they are told, no, you have to go and make money to be able to feed, your addiction. So those are the things that are happening. Girls in villages are the most vulnerable. Why? Because they are thinking about the bright lights of Joburg. We dealt with a case of young girls from Uppington. Luckily, when they were in Sandton, one of them escaped, went back to Uppington and reported that I left 2 other girls in that hotel in Sandton, and that's how they were rescued. So those are the things happening. Yes, I'm not for sale. The next slide, Minya. Okay. They also program on dealing with, services to the LGBTI community. Well, I don't think it's really necessary to get through all this, but we are trying to make sure our services also do respond to the needs of the members of the LGBTQI community. Yes, yeah, so this is happening. The next slide, please. Remember I spoke about 0800 428 428, ne? Yeah, we employ, I think, almost 50 social workers. Ne? They are sitting right now listening to calls 24/7, 365 days a year. So what you do is you call this number. This is the Gender-Based Violence Command Center. They are based in, as you can see, 24/7 days a week. That means 365 days. You can call this number. Someone will answer on the other side, and you can conduct, a telephone counseling session, And then if there's need for any referral, what we say is the good thing about this service is that it is, they say it's what is it? Geolocation, which means when you are calling from here, the system will tell the person on the other side that the nearest police station is how many kilometers from where you are. And they are also able to call and then or do a teleconference, connect you with the police station. I remember during COVID, I volunteered there. And then I had a case of a young lady in KZN who called in. I was able to connect with the police station. And then she did explain, where she is, because I didn't know, but the police understood. And then they dispatched a van to go and rescue her from that situation. So you can call at any time as long as you are within the borders of South Africa. Meneer? Yeah, other programs, we have what we call men as positive role models dialogues. Yes, I mean, men as positive role models. It's like I always say, I grew up in the township. Our role models, in those bras, Amakinsa and the like. We sort of saw them as our role models because they were driving flashy cars. Everyone seemingly worshipped them. And then we all wanted to be like them. Kantidon, those are wrong people. Ordinary men like Banna Bakai, young people don't really see them as role models. Ordinary men who don't really show off, whatever material things they have. So what we are trying to do here is we have to promote men as positive role models. And we've seen, I know Banna Bakai does conduct dialogues, bring men and boys together, sit in a dialogue and discuss. I mean, it's like, confront the so-called norms in our society. It's like what we think are the norms in our society. Are they right? Will they enable us to reach our goal in 2030 or not? So it's like we have to encourage this. If you have a son and then there's a dialogue close by, men and boys, encourage your boy to participate. Encourage him to go and participate because that's where you get the real role models. Ordinary people, not television stars or whoever, just men in community. We know there are men. There are men in our communities that we know when it is tough, we find ourselves running to them. Or abayo in your communities, bontate ba responsible. Habateng? So it's like look up to such men. Encourage your son to interact with such people. Go and talk to this man and say, well, if you have a chance, please come talk to my son. Angir, here. Me? Baba Beta. Mpaka Beta me. Ubita, these positive role models. Oh, no. Yeah, then that's where they are wrong. You remember was HPA. Yeah, if Ilehurba meets and they don't talk to him, it doesn't help. So then they should change and make sure, could like you talk. I mean, I can't remember the last time I beat my son. And even today, I remember I once slapped him. I think he was about 7. Even today, I regret why I did that. Like, you know that? Even today, this man is 19 years. He's your age. But when I think about it, I become so depressed. Why did I do it? Because then, from a very early, young age, you start talking. Because you are not just, disciplining. You are showing him, the right direction. And you are also teaching him how to solve, problems. When there's conflict. So if Baba beats her, they are teaching them that violence is the solution. Well, this is unacceptable. To me, those are not positive role models. They don't differ from the criminals that I've always spoken. Okay, then we have the 16 days of activism and 365 days, you know about it. There's also a program called National Emergency Response Team. I remember here in Tlokwe, there was a case, I think it was 2016, of a 16-year-old who was gay, ne? And he was killed. I don't know. And yeah, I remember the team did intervene. Like it's a case here. Yeah, a 16-year-old boy who was, they came, our National Emergency Response Team. We create awareness of gender in institutions of higher learning. I'm not sure if they've ever been to your institution here, Potchefstroom University. Remember I said we have shelters for victims of traffic or victims of GBV. These are Kuseleka one-stop centers, our white doors, which I spoke about, and they are either state or privately run. We also get involved in interfaith. The minister launched in KZN and in Mpumalanga. These are dialogues, interfaith dialogues on gender-based violence. We also fund national and provincial NGOs. I think, if I'm not mistaken, this could be the last slide. Next one, Minir. Next slide. Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's a thank you. Yeah, so Galilebo. I hope I didn't take long.
That's fine. Thank you very much, Puti. I think that presentation deserves another hand, ladies. It was very good. Okay, so before we take questions on the presentation, I just want to ask the technical team to get the slides up for not the slide, the one slide up for the young lady that's going to speak to end this session. And then we will have a tea break for a short tea break. And then we will take the presentation for Postbank. I just wanted to indicate that they get those things ready in terms of her speed, her input before we end. So can I check, is there any comments or questions for Buti? Anyone that wants to ask a question or a comment? I don't see any hands. So there's no questions, no comments. There is, okay. I was going to be very concerned because
Dumelang, aku tlo o bua ka men can change from abuse. How do you know how a man changed? Because ke mo situation is so monna ka dula are okay, yes.